can already say that the panel will be about beyond downloads, the new rules of games marketing. So we'll give it a moment, and then I'll introduce the panel. Well, like I said, let's dive straight into it. The last session of our Marketing Marvels track. Panel, Beyond Downloads, the new rules of games marketing. Our moderator here, StephenHey, he will introduce the rest of the panelists, and I'm looking forward to the insights. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're going to take it down now. I think everyone's been too excited. And we've got a panel here of some of the greatest marketing minds, I think, in video games in this room. If you know,
no pressure.
No pressure. So we've downloaded 5 AI avatars to come along. So just keep it relevant. And yes, and we're going to be quite general. Can I quickly ask, so people, mobile, involved in mobile, show of hands? Cool, thank you. Big screen? Console PC? Okay, cool. So largely mobile, but some big screen people out there as well. Cool, okay, let's quickly go to the panel then. If you give me your name, title, and company.
Sure. I'm Markus. I'm the founder and consultant at my own consultancy, Beyond the Wall Consulting. Been in the industry for about 30 years, held lead marketing roles at Activision, 2K, and Private Division. Started my own consultancy to support developers, publishers, and really all kinds of industry organizations in terms of marketing and BizDev.
I will be short here. So I'm Julia. I represent Almedia, and I'm responsible for user acquisition.
And hi, I'm Daniel Helmhold, lead product marketing and marketing strategy for EA Mobile. My background has been across Google, Capcom, Fox, Kabam, and a bunch of other places. So excited to be here with you all today.
I'm Mike Gallagher. I'm the founder of Untitled Advertising. Yeah, I started out in film and production, so very much on the creative side. And then, yeah, recently I was head of marketing at Hothead Games before, unfortunately, they went up. EA before that, and Hyper Hippo Games. So been around the industry for a little bit.
Hey, I'm Sashank. I work at Aarki as a product manager for our machine learning systems. And yeah, I've been in the industry for about 10 years, mostly on backend systems, bidder, ML, AI, that kind of stuff.
Thank you. So we had a pre-chat because we're professionals, well, you know, semi-professionals, and to kind of tackle this subject, you know, beyond downloads, it's quite wide, and we want this to be quite a kind of a tangible talk so that you can kind of take away some good tips. And we thought the best way to handle this was to talk about the kind of product life cycle and how that fits into everything that we all do. Markus, your experience is really wide and varied and excellent. You know, you worked across mobile and PC. Where do you start? Where do we start? Where do you begin when you were talking about marketing?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Stephen. Well, because that is actually something that is my own personal soapbox, if you will. I'm old enough to have grown up in a time where there were so few games that actually I would go to my local game store a couple of times a month, and sometimes there was just not a single new release. Obviously, this has changed massively, and I'm also old enough to have read many interviews with game developers over the years where there was this common term or even trope at some point where people said, well, we want to develop the games we always want. We want to play ourselves. And that's great and all, but that's just not enough these days. So my advice really is like, put your marketing hat on extremely early. And that is, I would argue, before you even start writing a single line of code. That is doing the exercises that the publisher used to do. And it is now really everyone's job. By that, I mean coming up with your target audiences, create personas, do a SWOT analysis of your game before you even start doing it. Because that's the thing, is like a lot of developers do the games, they're based on other games that they feel are successful or their own ideas. But when you don't know who specifically you develop your game for, and even even as important who you don't develop this game for. That is, if you don't know that, then you're developing blind. And I think it's crucially important to do this. It's also going to be very helpful in your business planning when you are starting to look for a publisher, if that's what you do, unless you self-publish. But a publisher, again, used to do all of these things. I used to do this on the marketing side a lot. But when you pitch your game to a marketing team, to a publishing team, to the salespeople, and you can show them that you have defined your target audience, that you know your SWOT, that you know, have you done your comp analysis. You're showing that you have a commercial mindset, which is really, these days, with so many games out, is what everybody is looking for. It's not just a great game creatively, but also viable commercially. And if you show this commercial mindset, that is going to take you a long way. And even more importantly, if you self-publish, you just need to do this.
Nice, yeah. So, and it's less about, would you say it's less about age and those kind of demographics, or is it more about personality?
Yeah, I think so. So that's something on the marketing side that has evolved over time. Like, it used to be like, oh, you have your primary, secondary, tertiary marketing target audience, and that was largely defined by age, by gender, and then genre specifics. The more advanced version is really creating personas. That has become more and more of a thing, which really helps nail it down to the kind of person you feel the game is for.
Perfect. Okay. If anyone wants to chime in with anything short, you can do.
I would just say we're very lucky now that I think in the olden days, the studio side's desire to bring marketing in early, I think, was maybe limited. And now I think there's a lot more recognition on the development side that if they don't build a game that's marketable, that can be ROAS positive, that can actually make money, they are probably moving in the wrong direction. And so it's been really exciting to watch the greater integration of studio and marketing at those earlier stages, where you don't feel like you're trying to tear down walls as much as people are starting to recognize that there's value and that you can help make sure that they're building the right game from the beginning. So I've really enjoyed seeing that evolution where marketing is brought into those rooms. And if you're not in those rooms, then, break down those doors.
I'm going to go to Mike now. So we know who we want to launch to. How do you kind of guaranteeing a successful launch is really hard. But what do you do to make your launch as successful as possible?
Yeah,
That's easy.
Yeah, right. You gave me the hard one. It's about showing up early, right? Like, I think just kind of drafting off what Daniel said, like, you need to be in the room as a marketing team from the very beginning. And you need to show up early from a marketing perspective, right? Like, don't wait for soft launch or for launch. I know we do 50% mobile, 50% PC from our client base, and it's very, very different. Obviously, this is probably more of a PC answer, but showing up early, because players who see your game multiple times before they actually download, right? So you're reducing that friction by showing up early. And I think, like, beyond just showing up early, it's about planning what happens after launch and being ready for post-launch, because it's so easy for us to go, okay, we're turning on global spend, but then not having an update ready, not having a community beat ready, not having something ready, and like having it pre-produced and having those assets ready to go. So you're not reacting, but you're being proactive about what you want your players to do. Attention will wane, right, after that first initial like blast. And if you don't have something prepared, you're not going to be able to kind of like extend that like attention that you've already grabbed and kind of like keep it going, and you're going to lose momentum pretty quickly.
Cool. Can we move to Sashank? So tell us about how you can help on the mobile side.
Yeah. So like I said, I've been working on like machine learning for a while, right? And I think, to echo both of their thoughts, one thing by which I've seen a lot of success with is like folks who are not afraid to experiment and experiment often tend to find a lot of success. We've reached a stage, with AI and ML where the models that are there today are completely different from the models that were there 6 months ago. And suddenly, even someone who was a marketing partner you're working with 6 months back, you wrote them off, they didn't show good performance, whatever. Today they could have completely different models, and suddenly they'll be beating everyone else. So the more, I guess, aggressive you are with your experimentation, as I keep telling my team, like, don't be scared. It's okay to fail, and with the age of AI, you can keep improving models at an alarming pace. So I think that's where I've seen the most success, like just aggressive experimentation. That's what I keep telling folks.
Excellent. So moving on to Julia, with how we go from launch to build and sustain a launch on mobile?
I would say that as soon as we turn our view into to user acquisition from just generating installs, and when we look at this more like long-term perspective from the very beginning, it would be very beneficial for us. So I would say as soon, like we used to think about user acquisition as about the thing that ends right after install, but let's be honest, the main value and results just starts there, right? The main value for the game starts after install, and that's, from my perspective, this is where real work begins, and for user acquisition team as well. So I would turn your view to your user acquisition more towards the way to manage user value, user quality, to shape their behavior after install and build the retention over the time. So while talking about Almedia, my company, we are more focused on after install user behavior. And what we see that rewarded engagement show us much greater results over the time in long term. When we are talking about long-term ROAS, sometimes it's like double, 2 times higher than non-rewarded engagement, or like ARPU 2-3 times higher, as well as long-term retention. So like being on this side of the business, we have all the tools to support this approach. So we have all the instruments to focus on maximizing ROAS while keeping maximizing ROAS and scale actually at the same time, while keeping CPI under control. So CPI for us is more like input, not the final target. So what I'm saying, that role of user acquisition these days are changing towards the quality and real value. And it's not just like user acquisition experiment. We see this is rewarded engagement is actually reflect of user behavior shift. Users these days expect to be rewarded for their engagement, and they expect this value exchange. So basically, this is just normal user behavior these days. And I would say, if you still consider rewarded channels and rewarded engagement as something nice to have, you're really missing it. And I really enjoy, and as guys already said, that like long time ago, like marketing was different, and being more than 10 years in digital marketing, I really enjoy that our power is growing and we having more and more tools and instruments and channel really influence this used to be product parameters, right? We always considered retention, engagement more like to product team. These days we can definitely form it, and we can definitely shape it and influence to this side. And really, I cannot stress more to this point that user acquisition team and marketing team can really affect this, like can really influence this part of the user journey. That would be my take.
Markus.
Can I just latch on to this really quick, because I really like what you talked about, like the audience, and also listening and also communicating with the audience. That's something that wasn't possible 15, 20 years ago, and we're so well, that too. No, but we're so lucky that we have these channels now and these opportunities now, and we should use them. A/B testing has been done a while ago, a long time, but everyone can do this now. And it's not just it's listening and it's interaction. And I think that's something that's underused still often, especially with smaller teams, because they feel, oh, we don't have the time for that. It's like, you have to make the time. There's just no way around it. There's the best opportunity for you to really figure out who your audience is and what attracts them and what detracts them too.
And I think the really big benefit of this that you can make your communication in your way with the user much longer than before. So you can adjust your communication, you can adjust your offer, you can really work through that, and you can work this way with along with your users, or like with us as a partner here. So whatever the opportunities are growing, that's for sure.
Yeah, cool. Daniel, sorry, I'll come to you at last. I mean, you travelled furthest, so, well, you might, I don't know, one of that fight there. So how do we go beyond this? So we have this phenomenon now of evergreen games, so people are just in those games sustain for such a long time. And it's not, you know, the cycle I grew up with where it was game of the week and then the charts changed, but now people live with these games forever.
Yeah, which is exciting. I mean, the thought of building something that can last for years or decades is, I don't think, something we thought of, you know, earlier in the kind of free-to-play evolution. And now we can really plan for the long term. And so when you think about how you are managing a game that you want to stay live for 5, 10 years, you have to change the criteria that you prioritize, right? Like, it's so easy in a live ops setting to be thinking about what is the next sale, what is the next feature, what is the next engagement opportunity. But if you are thinking about how you sustain a community and a game economy and a top of funnel acquisition system for years and years, it changes the validation criteria and the KPIs that you use to prioritize that quality of user. You know, you talk about needing to stay engaged with your community. Well, we'll think about the evolving nature of your community as a game ages. You have a higher and higher concentration of people who are more deeply committed to your game, and the people who are casually related to your game are slowly weeding out. So two things happen. One, your population of, you know, payers or spenders or at least highly engaged people goes up, and their expectations for you and your game and their emotional connection to you and your game also go up. So how do you change the way you engage with them when they become a more and more involved, expectant audience? And how do you then relate that to continuing to try and bring in a top of funnel population to add to this highly entrenched, highly committed, highly opinionated group of people who love your game? And so I think if you start to understand the different makeup of the audience, you can then turn that back on who do we want to bring into the game, and that can inform your targeting, your top of funnel investment. I think the other piece is being really self-aware. Like who are we as a game and what are you trying to drive? Like, we all hear the same KPIs, whether it's something from DAU to ARPDAU to LTV. Okay, those are industry metrics, but are those what matter for your game? Right? If you have a casual game, you're going to be much more focused on DAU, which informs your ad monetization, which informs the scaling potential, versus if you're building a mid-core game and you're trying to drive payers who play every day. At Kabam, we called them regulars. We noticed that driving someone who plays 7 days in a row correlates to long-term, you know, maximization. That is one model for understanding what matters in your player base. And there's going to be a different one if you're monetizing on AdMon. And so if you look at the stages of development in launching a game, they're very distinct, right? We're going to go into pre-pro, we're going to go into production, we're going into alpha and beta, and you have a very clear idea of these phases of progression on the way to market. And then we get live and we're kind of just like, live. Like, it's just, here we are. Well, there are phases to being live as well, right? Like, how are we thinking about the life cycle stage of this game? Are we still scaling? Are we kind of having more of like a stable period of growth? Or are we starting to see an inflection point where we no longer can deeply invest in this game? And if you want to create these evergreen games, you're really trying to forestall the point where your game no longer becomes investable. So if you define these phases, align the right KPIs with what happens at each phase, then you can also actively say, these are the things that happen that mean our game starts to decline, and we can actively manage against those things. And I think there's just less of that in the live service playbook of actually recognizing there are distinct phases in a product lifecycle versus just knowing that there's this curve and you're trying to figure out where you're at on it.
Nice, thank you. So a question to all of you. Are you seeing anything in the market that's unusual, or any kind of tactics that are emerging that you think are not being used yet or not being fully kind of utilized?
I mean, this isn't a new tactic, but I think there's this like growing trend that we're especially seeing from like our side with our clients of showing up and you know, a lot of what we do is like community management, social media management, that type of stuff. And you know, traditional mobile marketing is very UA focused, and we're starting to see a better bridge between those two teams coming together and funneling and finding creative going both ways. And I was listening to you guys both talk about showing up for your community. And it kind of reminded me of a case study that we had worked on before. I won't name the game because it wasn't a client. But essentially what we had done was we really over-indexed in community. It was a legacy game. It'd been around, I think it's coming up 10 or 11 years now. It's been live. Been around for a long time. We really over-indexed in trying to grow community and find power in community. And what we found was that like we kept rediscovering a new golden cohort from community and social media and just engaging with the audience in that way. And there's a lot of power there, like, you know, talking about what you guys are talking about, like top of funnel metrics and blah, 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 and like, and CPIs and all that. But on the flip side, we were able to completely remove our retargeting and remarketing budgets entirely from our stack because we kept reinvesting in community and social and keeping them engaged for the long term. And them just keep coming back. And we saw over and over again, oh, I forgot this game existed. I forgot this game existed. Go back in and we'd rediscover whales. And even though we eliminated that budget, we made our margins a lot better and revenue continued to either stay stable or grow. And the biggest trigger that we could really find that was really like making that happen was through social and community. And so I think people are starting to discover that and realize, you know, traditionally, if you look at like social or community, it's so gray, right? Like, okay, well, what are the metrics? What are we seeing? I gave you an attribution link. I'm not seeing any clicks coming up in singular apps flyer. It's because that's not how people engage, right? It's all about touch points, staying top of mind, and getting people to come back into it. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of that, and I think there's just a lot more connection now between, hey buddy, creative and UA, and working together to find what the community cares about, and then serve it back to your UA team to find better creative to do better.
Nice, cool. The time on this panel goes incredibly short, fast. I'm going to ask you then, each of you, before we have to finish, if there's one thing that you want to leave people with for this panel, what would it be? A useful piece of information they can take back to the office or take back to their project.
Yeah, sure. So I think in like the last 4 years, what I've seen happen is that you can arrive at the result of a test or an experiment like much faster than you used to be able to. So you actually don't need a lot of investment to figure out what is working and what is not. I think like we work with like major clients, and the folks who like keep engaging with us and just say, hey, you know, just try this out for 2 weeks. Like I want to target this audience who's really not like engaging with our app very much. We want to see if we can convert them to like whale users. Just like run something for 2 weeks and see if you know, you can run any models that find any whale users over here. Just, you know, try it out for 2 weeks, see what happens. And if it works, great. You know, you've managed to find some diamonds in the rough. If not, you know, no problem, just move on to the next. And I think we've been able to have some really long engagements with clients who are willing to work with us with, you know, on these sort of objectives where it's just about discovery and rediscovery of users. And you leveraging the power of AI to identify these sequences and these trends where users churn out and are, you know, very likely to maybe come back in.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, we'll go, Matt.
I'll just continue on my thought for a second here. If you're going to look at social and community, don't look at it as like, hey, we need to post 3 times a week. Show up to where your audience is, listen to what they're saying, and provide them real value. Understand where you fit into the stack. You know, it's not going to be a top of funnel like conversion tactic. It's going to be a re-engagement tactic that keeps people engaged and keep them around for a long time. So approach it that way, and listen to what they're saying, and be there and respond to and act like appropriately to kind of how they're showing up for you for a game and a product.
You know, free-to-play gaming was kind of built on the back of user acquisition, and I think there's this idea that ROAS is the job of the UA team. For me, the thing that I would leave folks with is this idea that all marketing is performance marketing. That whether the UA person, the brand marketer, the product marketer, if you bring that orientation that we're all trying to drive return, you can see it from your creative to your influencer campaigns to your brand partnerships, and we all stay focused on driving that same ROAS orientation together.
I will also stay focused on my part. So I would say I totally agree with this setup when we see that marketing mix is definitely changing these days, and all of these new elements are making impact on that. And what I want to highlight once again, that these days, being performance-oriented person, I would say I'm super happy that we have the tools when we can influence and when we can build direct impact into final indicators, to ROAS, to all the, let's say, long-term results, being user acquisition person meanwhile. So my final thought would be that, first of all, user acquisition people are more powerful these days, and I would strongly recommend don't miss this opportunity to build this engagement and retention from the very beginning, from user acquisition side and from user acquisition point of view.
Nice. Thank you, Julia.
Cool. 85 seconds. All right. I'm gonna end with something maybe a little bit provocative and break into song. You stole 5 seconds. And suggest something that a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of studios don't dare to do, which is going back to my earlier waffling about target audiences and knowing what your target audience is and who your target audience isn't. Use that for your creative. Be a little bit provocative, be a little bit divisive, and put out creative that not just tells your audience who this game is for, but also who this game is not for. Everybody's trying to appeal to the broadest possible audience, and that sometimes makes creative pretty bland. You can stand out. Everybody tries to stand out in some way. You can stand out by clearly stating, like, this game isn't for you. If this is not limiting your audience, well, obviously it limits your audience to a degree, but it only that's almost irrelevant, because if you know who your audience is and you're excluding a certain part of an audience that you know is not going to be interested in your game, that makes the audience that is interested in your game makes it feel better, makes it feel more connected to your game, and creates some sort of, like, not exclusivity, but they feel like, yeah, this is for me, it's not for these guys. It's a little provocative. It can be a little bit challenging to, because you also don't want to insult anyone. But I really think that sharpening who your audience is and who it isn't, and making that clear in your creative, can help you stand out.
I was just doing some self-branding with Lego Stephen. So peek behind the curtain, we've got red lights flashing at us, so I think that means we've got to finish. And also, this is just a telly. We could watch Cash in the Attic on this. It's not a lectern. But thank you. Really exciting and really useful insights. So thank you very much to the panel. So round of applause.